and we'll go into explain in the today's session. So yes, the first thing is we have to discuss on how we'll go with the Android Studio. Yeah, basically, how many of you know the clean and exact picture of Android Studio? Those who know, give me a quick thumbs up. Those who doesn't know idea, thumbs down. Not idea on the Android Studio. Yeah, we'll just look into the things. We'll have some basics, some better knowledge on the Android Studio, and also about the emulator in the today's session. Basically, first, we should know what is an Android Studio. The first thing is we have to know what is an Android Studio. The yes, Android Studio is basically it is an software. It is an official software where there is an integrated development environments, which IDE stands for integrated development environment, which helps in which helps in to build which helps to build an Android application, which helps to build an Android application. Said you the Android app develop the Android Studio is basically it is an software, it is an officially software where we can where it's integrated development of environment. That means IDE stands for, as I said, integrated development environment, where it helps or it used for developing an Android applications. Yes, the major thing or the major motive is of the Android Studio is to build or to develop an Android application. Yeah, this is the line or this is the thing we have to see in the or we have to see what is an Android Studio here. Now moving further, we'll go we'll go what all the things what all the things can we do in the Android Studio. I'm repeating. Moving further, we'll go with the what all the things we can do in the Android Studio. Yeah. The first most thing is writing a code in Kotlin or Java. Yes, the Android Studio accepts the code of Kotlin or Java. You could have thought that it's a common sense of writing a code. Yeah, but still, the major thing in this line to catch is we have or will write a code in Kotlin or Java, which this is the main factor, this is the main key component of Android Studio. While coming to the second component, I'm repeating while coming to the second component, designing the app. Yeah. Now listen carefully. Designing the app, it is a major factor. Designing app UI. Designing the app UI, it is a major factor. Now we'll look into the what is UI. Yes. Basically, UI is an UI stands for user interface. Yes, UI stands for user interface, which user interface it is a part user interface it is a part of an app that user can interact with. Yes, as you can see, the UI is the major concept in the Android Studio, where user interface, where it is a bonding between the, it is a bonding, or it is a bonding between the app and the users interaction. Yeah, the main thing is this, where it includes many parts, where it includes many things in the user interface. For example, you can go with the buttons, images, text, input fields, menus, colors, designs, so on, etc. You can, when it comes to the UI, I'm repeating, when it comes to the UI, we can look into the many major aspects, as I said you right now. For example, you will know these things in the next upcoming classes. You will know this thing in the upcoming classes, where where you can where you can see what are all the major factors you are going to build the app. Once the major project has been assigned to you in the further sessions, you will notice these things, and you'll able to remember, and you can easily go further, over there. Yes, moving further, as I said you about buttons, text, image, input fields, menus, colors and design. Yeah, taking an example of an app, while you're building, all these things are very important to your app, what you're building as a major project. Yes, building an app requires, these are all the major key components it should be in your development of the app. Yeah, the buttons is the major factor to navigate between, or to navigate with the interaction flow of your screens of your app. Buttons is a major factor. And the text, yeah, concentrating on a text, you have to build, or you have to develop a text in such a way that the text has to be visible, visibility of your text, style of your text, coloring of your text. This all includes in your app. And when it comes to the images, adding an images is also one of the user interface, which helps in making your app more looking efficient, more professional. And also input fields. Input fields is a input fields what helps in the input fields, it it should be in the every of the individual single page. For example, we'll take as a login page. When we go to the login, we'll find us such an input fields. For example, mail input field, password input field. Yeah, as it's considered as, when we go through the next create a new account page, then we can see multiple input fields over there: name, password, confirm password, and the mail. You can see such a many input fields over there in your apps. These are all the major key factors you have to include, you have to implement to your apps. And the major factor is colors and design. Yeah, colors and design is the major key factor, or the important thing in your app, because while giving an UI UX design or a color of your app, it totally depends on your professionalism. Because if you add an some different colors which look more powerful, then your app is totally null. Your app will become totally null. So the thing is, be careful and be concentrative on colors and design. Yeah, when you think in a professional way, when you go with the professional way, when you're giving and coloring and designing in your professional way, then your final output, your final result of your app will get in a very good or very professional thing. Yeah, so majorly concentrate on the majorly concentrate on colors and design. Yeah, these are all the things you have to keep in mind while building and such a app in the next what when once when you got a major project, you have to keep this key aspects. You have to keep this major key aspects, remember these key aspects, and you have to move on with that. So yeah, when it comes to the UI, you should keep you should all keep in mind, these are the major things you have to keep in mind over there. Yes. UI implements with in the calculator. Yes. When you open the calculator, you can see a screen. When you open the calculator, you can see a screen with the many buttons, with the numbers, the mathematical operations. You can look into over there history options, settings option, and the unit converter. You can look into all those things, all those buttons in your calculator. This is also an UI, which is all equals to the UI, user interface. Exactly what I'm talking about. When you build an app, the buttons, is an important thing. Exactly when it comes to an WhatsApp, WhatsApp chat screen layout. Yes, when it comes to the WhatsApp chat screen layout, when it comes to the Instagram home feed design, yeah, exactly. These are all the things, these are all the different aspects you will see in different apps. In the calculator, we look into the buttons. In the Instagram, we'll majorly look into the design feed and the home. In the WhatsApp, we'll majorly look into the chat screen layout. These are all the different aspects in different app, but majorly comes under one thing, that is UI, user interface. Exactly. While building your app, the user interface is a most major important key factor you have to go through it, because while keeping these things in your mind, you can build a very professionalized app. And and we can look into the differences of UI and UX. Don't get confused. UI is a part different of UX. It is totally UI and UX. As we can see the difference, UI is totally about how your app gonna look. Yeah, UI is totally about how your app gonna look, how how it's going to look. Totally, the UI is depending on the look of your app. It could include, as I said, the texts, the color of your app, the text of your app, the icons of your app. It's keep on going like that. It includes in every aspect, but when it comes to the UX, how your app feels, you can get a major difference over there. looking off app and feels the app is totally different. The first thing is the app should look in a very professionalized way. After that only, you can go into the app and you can test each single particular aspect. For example, you created a setting option in your app. When you click on the setting option, you have to look into the flow of one screen to the another screen. You clicked on the setting. Next, a splash screen should appear with the second screen with the many different setting tools. When you clicked on the settings, yeah, the usage, the feel of the app should be in such a way, such a smooth as a butter like that. And UI is all about the design. Designing is everything. Designing is the important thing. When it comes to the UX, it's all about the experience. And as I said earlier, UI is all about the colors, buttons, icons, and the flow. And UX is totally depend on your smoothness and usability of your app. Yes. This is the major key difference. You can go with the UI and UX. Now we'll come back to the previous steps. As I was explaining, the components of Android Studio. Then moving to the next component is running and testing the apps. Yes, the Android Studio is majorly helps with running and testing the apps. Yes, while we can create our own apps, build our own apps, and we can run and test the apps. And also, while testing and running the apps, we could have see some errors. We can able to debug, or we can able to resolve those errors, fix those errors in there. Yeah. Then this is all about the components of the Android Studio. Then moving further, we'll look into the major components of the Android Studio. We'll look into the major components of Android Studio. Yes. What are all the major components of Android Studio? First, first and foremost, we'll look into the code editor. Yeah. In the name itself, we can analyze what is a code editor. The code editor basically refers to an where we can write a code with the Kotlin or Java in the Android Studio. Yes, it is a basic format of a code editor. Then we'll look the second component will go with the layout editor. Yes. What is layout editor means? The layout editor is helps us to the layout editor helps us to design app screens visually. Yeah. Now, as I said earlier, designing the app screens is very important. Yeah, we can see with the visual editor. It helps in the designing the app screens. Next, when it comes to the next component is project structure. Yeah, project structure is a very important thing. I'll just give you an example how the project structure should look like in your Android Studio code. For example, now as you build an first app, that is Hello Android in your app, you will look a code. you look up code with the main activity dot kt. Yeah, as that you are looking the main activity kt, it is just for a single and it's just for a one step of an app. As you run on your emulators, you'll see just a single screen. But when you're building when you're building an app, you will have a multiples you have will have a multiples of screens. For example, we'll take Instagram as an example. You can see in Instagram, let's assume that now everyone are the new users for the Instagram. We'll just assume that everyone are the new users for the Instagram. Now the first thing is we have to create our account. We have to create our account. Just assume that everyone, like, you build an app like Instagram. Now I am the new user for your app. I am the new user for your app. The first thing I want to do is, when I click on the app, when I open the app, I want to first sign up. I want to first create my new account. Yeah, creating a new account is also one of the project structure. You have to give a code of creating an account, also individual page. Once the account is created, then you will go to the login page. Again, login page is also one of the project structure. It is also a different code, different project structure. As you can see, a main activity kit, you will see different activities over there. You can see next Android manifest.xml. You will find some different project structure like that. After logging into your accounts, then Instagram will open with the page of, like, you can see there are multiple things over there, stories and the icon of heart at the top, where you can click on that, and then after clicking on that you can see some notifications over there. And when you go back to the main page, you can see at the bottom icon, reel icon, your account profile part will open over there. Exactly, when you're building your app, the project structure is such as important is, while building each single icon, your each project structure, each different code should has to be created in the project structure. It should look like many of your coding things there should be over there, not in a single main activity kit with the different types of project structures over there. Yes. Then we'll move on to the next component, that is logcat. Yes, logcat is a new word for everyone, but the term is very common for everyone. The logcat is usually used to see an errors or the warnings or the logs. And yes, when you in the Android Studio, when you got an errors something, there is a icon called logcat. When you click on the logcat, you will see an errors or the warnings over there. And the next component is Gradle. Yeah, Gradle. It is the major component in the Android Studio, because for the every project what you're building, for the every code, entire code what you're building, the Gradle process is very important. Once, until or unless, only when the Gradle is synced with your entire code, only after that you can run your app, you can get an output of your app. Now, as you build a first app, Fellow Android, I guess everyone saw the Gradle sync-in process, right? Give me a quick thumbs up. I guess everyone saw a Gradle sync in progress, right? Yes, exactly the same thing. Exactly what I'm explaining with you. The Gradle build is very important. for your entire code until or unless, as I said you, until or unless you build or you sync your your entire code to the Gradle, it will not run your app until once the Gradle process is synced for your entire code, your app will able to run. Yeah. Now, now, why the Android Studio is important means why the Android Studio is important means because it is a such a official tool and it is also supported by the Google. And moreover, the main thing is it provides testing, debugging, and having a performances tools. And last but not the least, another major key factor is it helps for or it required for professional Android app development. Yes, as I was saying the same thing earlier, we can build a best professional Android app using this Android Studio. Now, students, give me a second, give me a minute, I'll just be back. Yeah. Now we have an idea or we have an base or an exposure of what is Android Studio. Now let's moving further. We'll look into emulator or what is an emulator in Android Studio. Yeah. In one line, I can say it as Android Studio, sorry, Android emulator. It is a virtual Android mobile device that runs on the computer. Yes. The it is a virtual Android mobile device that runs on your computer. And also it helps to allows to test the Android apps without the physical mobile phone. Yeah, without having a mobile phones, without having our mobile phones, the Android emulator helps to run our app. I'm repeating, without our mobile phones physically, we can run our app in Android emulator. Now now we can like or we'll see the many different things. We'll find many questions will arise. Why should we use the emulator? What are all the uses of emulator? If emulator is not there, can't we build an app? Yeah, we'll get many of the questions over there. We'll just figure it out those things. First, why do we use the emulator means because to test the app without real devices. Yes, without having a real devices, we can test the app in the emulator. Yeah, it is a thing. And one more key factor or the one more major factor is to test different Android versions. Yeah, the first one will go with the testing with the app without real devices and to test to test different Android versions. Yeah, you can go with many different Android versions. You can test different types of. You can make a habit of testing with the different types of Android versions. For example, you can go with Pixel, Nexus, every etc. You can go with many different. You can test many different Android devices and also to test the different screen sizes. Yeah, many of our mobile will have not will not having the same screens for the same for the different Android devices. For example, for the Samsung, it's a different resolution with a different screen size. For the iPhone, we have a different screen size with a different resolution. Exactly the same thing. For the different screen size, we will have a different resolution. So it helps to test the different screen sizes. And also, the major thing is to check the app performances and the errors. Yeah, emulator major part, the concentrating part is it helps to check the app performance and the errors. Yeah, that's the major thing. And we can look over the another thing that is AVD, whereas AVD stands for Android Virtual Device. Yes, whereas AVD stands for Android Virtual Device, which it is a configuration where it is a configuration of the device models, Android versions, RAM and the storage. RAM and the storage. Now, now we look into the difference between. Now we look into the difference between Android Studio and Android Studio and the emulator. Now, about different, we look into the difference between the Android Studio and the emulator. Yeah. Well, seeing the difference, the Android Studio is used to develop the apps. Yeah. And where the emulator helps to test the apps. There is a difference between developing and testing the apps. And also in the Android Studio, we can just install once, but in the emulator, we can create multiple virtual devices over there. The simple things to explain the differences is the Android Studio, it's like a factory where you can build more apps, where you can develop or you can build many Android apps over there. But when it comes to the emulator, it is like a mobile virtual phone where you can test the app before deploying it or before giving to the user. You can once clear it all, check the all the things, and you can complete those things. So yeah, so this is an basic foundation of an emulator and the Android Studio where it helps for you to building your app, professional app in the future given concepts. Yeah. So this is all about the today's session. For those, for those who already who already connected your apps, connected your first app in the Android Studio to the emulator, that's well and good. For those who did not connected your app, or those who did not connect to your app still to the emulator, no worries. In the LMS, there is an instruction how to connect your app to the emulator. Just go through once and connect your apps to the emulator. In the tomorrow session, we'll look into that part. After connecting to the emulator, we'll look into the next steps. I want each one of you, everyone, to connect your emulator to the app what you build in the Android Studio. Is that clear? Yes, good. Now I'm winding up the today's session. Thank you, everyone. We'll meet up at the same time in the tomorrow session, 4 p.m. Thank you, everyone.